Have you ever felt that something in your life was about to change, but you couldn't explain why? What if the moment you feared the most was actually the moment your purpose was about to be fulfilled? And what if glory didn't come through victory the way the world defines it, but through surrender, through sacrifice, through a path that looked like loss? There are moments in life that feel like quiet turning points, moments where everything begins to shift, even if the world doesn't notice. In the Gospel of John, chapter 12, we are invited into one of those sacred moments. It's not loud, it's not dramatic in the way we might expect, but it carries a weight that echoes through eternity. Jesus had just entered Jerusalem. Crowds had welcomed him, waving palm branches, shouting praises, calling him king. To them, it looked like the beginning of something powerful, perhaps even political, a revolution, a restoration of their nation. Hope was rising, expectations were high, but Jesus saw something deeper. He knew that the path ahead was not what they imagined. Among the crowd were some Greeks, outsiders, seekers, people who had heard about Jesus and wanted to see him. They approached Philip and said, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." It seems like such a simple request, but in that moment it carried profound meaning. The world was beginning to come to him, not just Israel, not just the familiar faces, but people from distant places, different cultures, different backgrounds. The message was spreading. The invitation was expanding. And when Jesus heard this, he didn't respond the way we might expect. He didn't say, "Bring them to me." Instead, he said something that shifted the atmosphere completely. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. The hour. This wasn't about popularity. It wasn't about recognition. It wasn't about being seen by more people. It was about something far greater. Jesus knew that the moment had arrived, the moment he had been moving toward all along. But what did he mean by glory? In our world, glory often means success, recognition, power, being lifted up by others. But Jesus redefined it completely. He said, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." At first it feels confusing. Why speak of death in a moment that seems so full of life and opportunity? But Jesus was revealing a deeper truth, a truth that challenges everything we think we know about purpose and fulfillment. A seed doesn't become a tree by staying safe. It doesn't grow by remaining untouched. It must be buried, hidden, broken open. Only then does life begin to emerge. Jesus was speaking about himself. He knew that his path to glory would lead through suffering, through rejection, through the cross. And yet he didn't turn away. Instead, he embraced it. He continued, "Whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life." This is one of those teachings that feels uncomfortable, because it goes against our instincts. We are taught to protect our lives, to build them, to hold on to what we have. But Jesus invites us into a different way of living, a life where surrender leads to growth, a life where letting go opens the door to something greater. He's not calling us to hate our existence, but to release our grip on control, to trust that there is something more meaningful beyond what we can see. He says, "If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there will my servant be also." Following Jesus is not just about belief, it's about direction. It's about walking the same path, even when it's unclear, even when it's difficult. It's about trusting that the road he leads us on, even when it includes sacrifice, is leading somewhere eternal. Then something remarkable happens. Jesus opens a window into his own heart. He says, "Now is my soul troubled." This is not the voice of someone detached from pain. This is the voice of someone fully aware of what is coming. He felt the weight, the fear, the intensity of what lay ahead. And he asks a question that feels deeply human. "And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour." For a moment we hear the tension, the struggle, the honest reality of facing something overwhelming. But then he answers his own question. "But for this purpose I have come to this hour." There is clarity in his surrender. He doesn't deny the difficulty, he doesn't pretend it's easy, but he chooses purpose over escape. And then he prays, "Father, glorify your name. Not save me, not change the situation, but glorify your name." It's a prayer of complete trust, a prayer that places everything into God's hands. And in response, something extraordinary happens. A voice comes from heaven. "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." Some in the crowd thought it was thunder. Others said an angel had spoken. But Jesus made it clear. It wasn't for him. It was for them. For those standing nearby, for those trying to understand, for those who needed reassurance that God was present in this moment. Then Jesus says something that reveals the deeper meaning of what is about to unfold. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the ruler of this world be cast out. What looked like defeat would actually be victory. What looked like darkness would actually be the breaking of chains. The cross was not the end. It was the turning point. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. Lifted up. On one level, it meant the cross. But on another, it meant exaltation. Jesus was describing a moment that would change everything. The moment when his sacrifice would open the way for all people to come to him. Not just a select few, not just one nation, but everyone. The crowd, however, struggled to understand. They had heard that the Messiah would remain forever, so how could he be lifted up? How could he speak of death? They asked, "Who is this Son of Man?" Their expectations didn't match what Jesus was revealing. And maybe that's something we can relate to. Sometimes we expect God to move in certain ways. We imagine outcomes that feel comfortable, predictable. But God's plans often go deeper than our understanding. Jesus didn't answer their question directly. Instead, he said, "The light is among you for a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you." He was inviting them to respond, not just to think, not just to question, but to walk, to step forward in faith while the opportunity was still there, to believe in the light that you may become sons of light. This wasn't just about understanding a message. It was about transformation, about becoming something new, about stepping out of darkness and into a life shaped by truth, by grace, by the presence of God. And then, quietly, Jesus departed and hid himself from them. The moment passed. The invitation had been given, but the response was left in their hands. And now it's in ours. Because this story is not just about what happened then, it's about what it means now. We all face moments where something in us is being called to change. Moments where holding on feels safer than letting go. Moments where the path ahead doesn't look like what we expected. And in those moments, the words of Jesus echo again. A grain of wheat must fall and die if it is to bear much fruit. What might that look like in your life? Maybe it's letting go of a version of yourself that no longer fits. Maybe it's releasing control over something you've been trying to manage on your own. Maybe it's stepping into a calling that feels uncertain, even a little frightening. The truth is, growth often comes through surrender. Not because surrender is easy, but because it creates space for something new to take root. Jesus didn't avoid the cross. He walked toward it, with honesty, with courage, with trust. And in doing so, he transformed what looked like an ending into a beginning. He turned loss into life. He turned suffering into salvation. He turned a moment of darkness into a light that still shines today. And that same light is still here, still calling, still inviting. Walk while you have the light. There is something deeply personal about that invitation. Because it's not just about belief, it's about movement. About choosing to take a step, even when you don't see the whole path. About trusting that God is working, even in the hidden places. Even in the moments that feel uncertain, even in the seasons that feel like endings. Because sometimes those are the very moments where something new is beginning. And maybe today you're standing at one of those moments, a quiet turning point, a place where something is being asked of you, not loudly, not forcefully, but gently. An invitation to trust, to follow, to let go. To believe that even in surrender, there is purpose. Even in difficulty, there is glory. Even in the unknown, there is a path being prepared. Jesus said, "Where I am, there will my servant be also." That means we're not walking alone. Even when the road feels unclear, even when the cost feels high, he is there leading, guiding, holding us in the midst of it all. And the promise remains. When he is lifted up, he draws people to himself, not by force, but by love. A love that gives. A love that sacrifices. A love that transforms. So wherever you are right now, whatever you're facing, whatever feels like it's being lost or changed or reshaped, take heart, because the story is not over. The seed is not the end. It's the beginning of something greater. Thank you for taking this time to reflect and walk through this moment of Scripture together. If this message spoke to your heart, don't forget to like the video, follow the channel for more reflections like this, and share this message with someone who might need encouragement today. Your support helps this message reach further, bringing light into more lives.